All right, guys, we got some new drops today that I absolutely starting from scratch. I really don't have any idea other than drop shot finesse for these baits, but I'm going to do a video about them because they just arrived and from Japan. And my guess is you might see a lot of similarities to a lot of stuff that's probably going to come at ICAST coming up, just because this niche is blowing up and in the finesse area, and we've seen it over the last year. I think Geek has just come out in the U.S. anyway. I think Geek has just hit the retail stores with the Q-Bomb in some places, a lot of the JDM shops, specialty shops. But it really all started with the dice, right? Started with this guy right here. Okay, but now we're seeing this niche, okay, this segment. People just call it the dice segment, kind of evolve now. And so we've gotten a couple brands that have kind of just expanded in that segment category. So we've had, obviously HideUp was probably one of the first original ones who came up with a couple kind of crazy like ideas, though I don't necessarily would put them in the quote unquote dice category, but at the same time it's that same type wild looking crazy stuff, right? Just crazy stuff of trying to figure out, okay, how is this being fished, and how can you utilize it with the tackle that you already have, and this is obviously a lot bigger than this, right? And so presentation wise and technique wise probably affords you the opportunity to go quite a few different ways, but again it's out of like most people's comfort zones. I mean, and I've had people tell me that they all think they're gimmick baits and they don't work and all that stuff. And then I've had people tell me that they crush them on them. And the only thing I can honestly think about, with some of the wild colors that are coming out, I actually really like this color in certain instances. If you've ever been a trout fisherman growing up or something like that, you pretty much know, probably you're thinking the same things I'm thinking about how you can float this. And rig it for smallmouth or any kind of fishing in your river system, and then he moved to O.S.P. This is the O.S.P. that I got in. The O.S.P. is a max salt O.S.P. Okay, which is the traditional dice rubber. Cube. I think Rubik's Cube would be a great freaking name. They couldn't do it. It's probably trademarked. For like if you're my age, for some of these baits with the coloration patterns they have. But then we've evolved from the O.S.P. This is the max salt, dice rubber max salt, okay, to the hybrids, okay, and this is the one-way hybrid, okay, which pretty much looks like the dice rubber from O.S.P. Right? This is from Raid. It is a one-way hybrid, okay. This is the Stealth Killer color pattern, but it has two extension on it, okay? Right? So, I don't know, I would still characterize this as the dice segment, but if you could think about how when you retrieve this, the disturbance that these two lips are going to make in the water, okay? So you could swim it back to you in a way. So again, have not thrown this. Definitely going to go with light line, finesse. These are definitely finesse presentations, but very, very interesting. But again, it's still predicated on that same type of dice kind of niche segment that's exploding. Okay, it really is. And this is what happens every year. There's a cycle. There's something new. I would expect there to be quite a few North American brands with versions of dice rubber or one-way hybrid kind of baits, or Thunder, Quickie Thunder from HideUp, or baits that look like this to fill that void. In the U.S., some of the top manufacturers, just because sales are kind of moving in that category because they are kind of neat baits, and they are very finessey. I don't think there's anyone can throw these, I would think, but nose hooking these, floating these, low water considerations in your river. The max salt obviously is intent from Japan to get down deeper than their non-salt variety. Packaged out like this. This is like I said, this is the Raid packaging for the one-way hybrid. You've got a green pumpkin seed. You've got a green pumpkin seed a floating version of this. Scuppernong is a popular one. Smoke shrimp. The shrimp colorations are the ones that really intrigue me the most, because a lot of these baits, like the O.S.P. has a winning shrimp. They also have a Moebi, Moeboi, depending on how you pronounce that. That are definitely that green pumpkin / brown. That are pretty much the right color for most people. As opposed to someone thinking pink's a ridiculous color, but pink catches fish. That's for sure. These come in a 5-pack, but obviously you can tell the size of them. Hook wise, going to be on the lower end in terms of size hooks. At least that's what I'm thinking. Really small hooks to begin with to try it out. Probably like 6 or 8 pound test line. I'm thinking, like, for my head where I'm at, and help me out in this in the comments if you guys have any other ideas for this, because like I said, I'm starting from scratch with these guys. Okay, this is the O.S.P. It's a 4-pack. Okay, dice rubber max salt, or there's a dice rubber non-salt. I don't know what these are going to retail for in the States. It cost me about $9. They're about $9. Okay, I think the raid's probably like $6 or $8, at least in Japan, with the conversion and stuff. So I'm kind of starting out with a couple things that I'm gonna consider about them. I'm thinking either going with straight up free rig, straight up nose hook kind of presentation. I'm thinking cicada. I'm thinking summertime. I'm thinking I'm gonna float these things in 2 feet of water, 3 feet of water in an area under trees at first. That's gonna be the first kind of way I'm gonna tackle this thing. I have no clue. There's floating versions, there's sinking versions. I've got kind of a mix. I'm gonna go with a Jika rig from Drop Zone Tackle. On the larger size. A lot of the dice comes like in a magnum size. You'll find usually there's 3 sizes for HideUp. I think there's 2 sizes for O.S.P. Raid, the one where a lot of their hybrid stuff, a lot of them like their Spider, they're all the different hybrid stuff that they've got in that niche. It usually comes in really small, like tiny version, medium version, and a big version, a magnum version, right? But I'm thinking of going with, if I'm not floating it, free rigging it, light line, going to go with a Jika rig. I had a guy recommend the, VMC Tokyo Rig, drop shot kind of like deal, especially on, the bigger ones. But it's going to be, it's going to be really interesting, to kind of just try these things out. Unique kind of like finesse style stuff. The O.S.P, I think you're going to be able to get, like this obviously is the Sight Neon Pink. Okay, so great sight, both of these two. Great like sight fishing, right? Like if you're like watching, same as like when you were trout fishing, right? You've got that thing floating on top of the surface and you're waiting to see the strike, right? And it disappear, right? I consider that to be like sight, like not just locating a fish, but actually seeing the fish come and strike and your bait go under. And I think these colors kind of work great for that visually for when you're, when you're out there, you're doing that. They've got, like I said, the winning shrimp, the Moebi. They've got a smoked lemon, fall webworm. I think they have black. I think there's black as well in the max salt from O.S.P. So give a shout. Like, look, check it out in your local. I mean, you may not going to be able to find a lot of these in your local tackle shop, but you can find them online. Probably some of the JDM, more of the specialty JDM stores. But that's kind of how I'm going to attack it. So O.S.P. Max Salt Dice Rubber. Then the evolution of what we're going to see, and you'll probably see some more at ICAST, probably, is kind of like the dice evolution. This has the lips on it of the one-way hybrid from Raid. You've got the G-Crack Q-Bomb, which is becoming very popular the last month or so because it kind of just hit a bunch of places, and you'll probably see a bunch of videos going into ICAST about the Q-Bomb, which is basically, variations of this, market segment. And, we'll see what happens. After ICAST, whether this segment blows up even more. I mean, you can expect at ICAST there's going to be some more minnows coming out. I'm pretty sure Rapala Crush City's gonna have 2 or 3 new lines coming out at ICAST. That's usually what they do. Berkeley is probably going to have a version of this in soft plastics. If I had to pick a brand, it would probably be Berkeley. That's going to come out with something in this genre niche. But do me a favor, put in the comments and let me know how you rig these things. I know they're not for everybody. I know a lot of people think they're gimmick baits. You hear that a lot. But I'm going to give them a go. I'm going to try it out, especially with, the water's back down really low. Like I said, I'm thinking maybe insect bite, when they're feeding up underneath the trees for the cicadas or the insects or whatever like that. That's really where my mindset is at. I know that's not really the application probably maybe they were intended for in Japan, because I'm not aware of cicadas or any of that stuff. And some of these are being thrown in 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 feet of water or more. I'm assuming the max salt, is really meant for that to get further, deeper down in the water column than where your non-salt varieties can get. But I'm going to start with the sight. I'm going to start with the floating version, techniques of seeing what happens really close to the surface and kind of see where that starts out. And then probably make my way down to, in some deeper water, going with more of a drop shot presentation, a Tokyo rig on the Magnum size, or a Jika rig from Drop Zone Tackle. Really love this. Really love the Jika rig. You guys should check that out with the VMC hooks on it. You obviously can. I like to do quarter ounce 2-aught, quarter ounce 3-aught. That seems to be the sweet spot for me. But that's it. That's what I got for you. Just again, comment for me. Let me know what you think about this new just evolution that's happening in the dice segment of soft plastic finesse in the bass fishing world, and what your thoughts are going to be coming out of ICAST for any of the new releases that are in this kind of category that most of us just aren't really comfortable with. It's going to be crazy, but I'm going to take these out maybe this evening. It's been pretty wicked hot, and it cools off in the evenings now, and there's a nice little evening bite, especially closer to the bank, underneath those trees in the shade, going in to the early evening. So I'm gonna throw them up in there, and I'm gonna throw them up in some eddies on the river, and just kind of see how the fish react to them. I'm sure they have not seen a lot of presentations like this. Comparatively speaking to other baits on the market, so it's gonna be fun. I'll report back. Maybe I'll get some video. If the bite gets really good, I'll get some video and post it up, because I'm just really curious. If you guys have fished these, and I know some of you guys probably already have, I'm really late to the game on this. But if you have, put in your comments, help people out, man, on how to rig these. What your technique is, what your favorite presentation is for it. Seems to work. I am kind of interested in the difference in the silicone skirts that are kind of the differences in them, because these are very different versus you could just feel on them, they're very different. And so in the water, this to me seems like if you're shaking has a little different action. And then this, see, what I'm saying? It's just a tighter, wobble action, that if you're just kind of bouncing that rod tip, this is a little bit down, as it's dropping. Then this one, right? This one, I'm really interested to see how this one acts on the top of the water, because of all of that laid out on the water as it's, as you're moving it. It's a lot more kind of, maybe to cause some sight evaluation by the bass, especially. Be interesting to see if any of the other species decide to get in on this game. And then this one, this one's basically just drop. I'm gonna drop it down, treat it like and bounce it up and down. Is really where I'm going at with this. This is already a pretty heavier bait. And so, not sure that I need to, put any extra weight into this. If I want to get these down, a lot of times you can find up the smaller nail weights, but they're actually a quarter size of the more normal nail weight now. That you can put in the dice rubbers, from what I understand. I don't really think I probably need it on this, but I will. I'm definitely going to try it with the Jika rig though, and get it down, especially in some areas that are 10 to 15 feet of water. Especially if you're going to your lake, your reservoir, you've got deeper water considerations. You can give this a go. And then of course, the thing about this is it's got the rattle too. So you got that rattle and that noise to kind of attract some attention, which is really, really cool. Unless you want to go with the straight up Tokyo, okay, which is really just more presentation. It's not. There's no rattle. There's no attraction. Try both those out. Get back to me. Let me know. And again, if you got any suggestions about how I can attack this stuff, I got quite a bit. So different colors. I haven't unpacked all of it yet. Sizes. Just kind of really don't know what to do with it, other than try the drop shot, try the floating techniques, kind of see where it goes.